into office. So when police are allowed to trample on the rights and lives of citizens, and citizens cannot hold the police accountable and cannot force consequences against abuse, then the state has given the police a license to rob people. Minneapolis police is an example of a criminal justice system that is allowed to rob people of their lives, their freedoms, and the state has so far refused to take action to hold officers and departments accountable. I'm trying to say this text is relevant to what's going on today. The Lord teaches us that loving your neighbor looks like acknowledging that it's wrong to allow a criminal justice system to repeatedly and unjustly rob people of their lives and their dignity. But wait a minute, there's another lesson in the text. Second lesson in the text is not only the selfish response of the robbers to people as they're walking down the roads of life, but the selfish response of privileged leaders. Look at verses 31 to 32. Jesus continues the story. Now by chance, a certain priest came down the road. And when he saw the man lying in the road, dying, he passed by on the other side. Likewise, a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came, looked, and passed by on the other side. The selfish response of privileged leaders. The Lord brings the priest, the Jewish priest and Levite into his story because they represent the highest positions of service and devotion to God in their nation. They had the high privilege of being God's representative leaders to the people. They were to be the model of loving God and serving him. And so you would expect these faith leaders to come to the aid of the man dying in the middle of the road, right? But as the Lord tells the story, the priest passed by on the other side. The Levite came over and got a closer look, but then he too passed over on the other side. And there are all kinds of debates about why they didn't do anything. Was it because they didn't want to become ceremonially defiled by touching a dead body? The Lord doesn't bother to give us any reason why. The Lord wants to point out that they both passed by on the other side. Literally, the word that's used that they passed by on the other side, I looked up the Greek word. It's a long Greek word, but it begins with the prefix anti, which means against. Literally, Jesus says these privileged religious leaders passed by against the dying man. Somebody didn't catch that. They passed by against the dying man. That seems to be the play on words because they did not act for the man by their inaction. They took a position against the life of this man because loving your neighbor requires that you not be neutral when issues of life and death, where people's lives are in danger. People speculate on why they didn't offer aid, but the Lord says it was their duty. Well, he points out their inaction was not the right example. Coming from Jerusalem means they would really finish their duties. There was no reason for them not to step in. The Lord focuses on their inaction. And the Lord wants us to recognize that taking no action to come to this man's aid was taking action against his life. You can't be neutral when people's lives are in danger and you do nothing about it. The Lord says not doing anything to help somebody's life that's being mistreated is not a viable position. That's not showing love. He's bleeding. He's in the middle of the road. The Lord doesn't tell us who he is. The Lord doesn't tell us his background. The Lord doesn't tell us his nationality. The Lord doesn't rehearse his record. He only wants us to see the man is dying in the middle of the road. And loving your neighbor requires that you respond to that situation.